I want to start today with what's really the prototypical vignette of the modern Republican Party. I've been researching this and researching how we got here extensively for my forthcoming book. And up pops this story about how Arkansas Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' approval rating is the lowest of any Arkansas governor in 20 years. And there are so many aspects of this, some of which are actually reassuring, the big picture of which is extraordinarily disturbing, that really are worth exploring. So first, let's look at the numbers. This is from THV 11. The 25th annual Arkansas poll shows that Sarah Huckabee Sanders has a lower than usual approval rating for governors, and voters are still concerned about the economy. This is the lowest approval rating for an Arkansas governor in 20 years. Sanders, in her first year on the job, has an approval rating of 48%, the lowest in 20 years, still higher than Senators Tom Cotton and John Boozman, as well as higher than President Joe Biden. Naturally, Arkansas is a very red state. In his last year in office, former Governor Asa Hutchinson had a 59% approval rating and never went below 57. So first of all, contextualizing, for a president, we are so divided right now as a country that rarely do you see presidents have a 50% approval anymore. In Arkansas, as far as governors are concerned, typically the approval ratings are close to 60. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is at 48. And it says it's a family affair in Arkansas. The last time an Arkansas governor had a lower approval rating was in 2003, when Governor Mike Huckabee had 47% support, and then that was up to 58% a year later. Biggest concerns are the economy, the political environment, etc. Okay, so a couple different things. First of all, in a sense, it's reassuring that the approval rating is reacting to the disastrous job that is being carried out by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. On this program, if you as a governor are being regularly mentioned, you're probably doing something wrong. Case in point, Ron DeSantis is being mentioned on the program because he's running for 2024 Republican primary nominee. But beyond that, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the most frequently mentioned governor on the program. And she's been doing disastrous things, banning woke words, banning critical race theory, which isn't even being taught in Arkansas, spending $19,000 on a lectern of potentially nepotistic provenance. We're still trying to figure out what the deal is with this $19,000 lectern, weakening protections against child labor. And in the meantime, Arkansas has the 6th highest poverty rate in the country, the 3rd lowest income per capita in the country. So she's doing terrible things. And so it's correct. It's reassuring. It's the way that her approval rating should react to be lower because she's doing the wrong things. Except I don't actually think that's why her approval rating is low. And in fact, much of what's going on in Arkansas, Arkansans are blaming on Joe Biden, in addition to, or even more than they are blaming Sarah Huckabee Sanders, even though the problems of Arkansas's economy are quite distinct from what's going on nationally with the economy. Nationally, on average, the economy is doing pretty well. I know that that counts as a controversial statement, and people will write in and say, David, how could you possibly say that? Look at the standard package of economic metrics. It doesn't mean we've solved inequality. We haven't solved poverty. We still have so much that needs to be improved with the American economy, and we can do it. One of the richest countries in the world. But the economic problems, to the extent that they exist, are disproportionately in certain states, and they are disproportionately red states. Unfortunately, many of the people that do approve of Sarah Huckabee Sanders' job blame Joe Biden for the problems that they are having in their state, even though Joe Biden has done a lot of the right things. We then get to the final layer of this. Record low approval rating, lowest in 20 years for an Arkansas governor, so on and so forth. Almost half the state still thinks she's doing a good job. Again, despite those realities, despite the 3rd lowest income in the country, 6th highest poverty in the country, and wasting time on nonsense virtue signaling bills and laws. And so when it comes to voting, many Arkansans will vote for Trump or DeSantis in November, whoever is the nominee, instead of Joe Biden, because they will blame Joe Biden for many of the problems that are actually a result of decades of Republican policy in the state of Arkansas. That's the really disappointing part. Great, lower than usual approval rating, still way higher than it should be. And many of these folks won't actually blame Sarah Huckabee Sanders for what's happening in her state. One other thing, there is an exception on the show to the, if we're talking about a governor regularly, they're probably doing something wrong. And that's Gavin Newsom, who actually has been doing a lot right when it comes to how he talks to Republicans, how he addresses issues, the tone that he is taking. So that's probably an exception to that rule. Let me know your thoughts about what, if anything, it would take to make Arkansans see that the problems of their state, first and foremost, have to be blamed on Republican governor after Republican governor. Let me know if that's even possible. So I wrote another book for kids. The first book was Think Like a Detective. The point of the first book was to teach kids critical thinking, which Republicans don't want them to learn, because when kids learn critical thinking, they don't vote for Republicans. The new book is Think Like a Scientist. This is a fun adventure teaching kids the scientific method. Again, Republicans aren't big on kids learning the scientific method, because when they do, they're less likely to fall for Republican lies about climate change and vaccines and so many other things. You can get the new book as well as the first one at davidpakman.com/book. This is part of the Adventures in Thinking series. Can you imagine that we're doing this? We are. davidpakman.com/book. 13,500 copies of the first book have sold. I'll bring you an update soon on sales for the second book. Think Like a Scientist, davidpakman.com/book.